Since I left the city, you. Math Morning. Mr. Dirk is back at it again. Today we'll be solving polynomials in factored form.
Whew, Mr. Dirkus, he's a genie. He can see your future. You will pass this mastery quiz. You got it. All right, let's get started with polynomial equations in factored form. So, factoring, this is something that's really important in algebra. You really need to know how to do it. You're going to see come up throughout the rest of the year and next year and the year after that. Another thing that's important is the zero product property. This is a great property. It just makes sense. It says if A times B equals 0, then A equals 0 or B equals 0. What that means is, if I have a number 3 multiplied by something that equals 0, the only possible answer is 0. So 3 times 0 is 0. Anything times 0 is 0. All right, on the other hand, if I had a number times 7 that equals 0, what can this be? It can only be one thing, and it's a 0. So the zero product property, it just makes sense. It's great. Something multiplied by 0 equals 0. No matter what I multiply times 0, it equals 0. So now we're going to take the zero product property and we're going to use it to solve equations. So if you look over here on the left side, it says one side of the equation is 0, the other side is polynomial factors. So this one side is 0, the other side 2 factors, right? This is being multiplied by this. So each one is a polynomial being multiplied. The solutions are called the roots or zeros of the function. So the solution is like, what does x equal? That's what we're looking for. Sometimes we call that a root. And what this is saying, like the rule before, if one of these equals 0, then the whole thing will equal 0, because you multiply something by 0, it equals 0. So what we do, we set each of these equal to 0. We say x minus 6 equals 0, and x plus 5 equals 0. Right? So it could be one or the other. Then we solve for x. So I do plus 6, that cancels, x equals 6. Or I solve for x, minus 5, x equals minus 5. So this is saying x can be 6 or negative 5. Does that work? Well, if I plug in 6 into this equation, if I do like 6 minus 6 is 0, and 0 times anything will be 0, right? So that works. If I put in negative 5 to this equation, or not this polynomial, negative 5 plus 5 is 0, and 0 times whatever this side is will also be 0. So that's how it works. Let's do another example. We've got b minus 3/4 times b plus 5 equals 0. So what do? We set each of these equal to 0. So we say b minus 3/4 equals 0, or 4b plus 5 equals 0. Then we solve for b. So I'll do plus 3/4 plus 3/4, that cancels, b equals 3/4, or on this side I do minus 5, that cancels, 4b equals minus 5, divide by 4, b equals negative 5 over 4. So those are my two answers. If I put 3/4 into this side of the equation, this will equal 0. If I put negative 5/4 into this equation, then this side will equal 0. That's how we do it. Now, a different note, some people always ask me, who was my favorite student? Who was it? And I'm going to tell you who. And I'm just going to show you a video to show you how great this student is.
My pants! What's the answer to number 9? I can't tell you, Ralph. I can't tell you either, Ralph. Leave me alone. Miss Hoover, the floor is shaking. Miss Hoover, there's a dog in the vent. Miss Hoover, I glued my head to my shoulder. Can you open my milk, Mommy? Was President Lincoln okay? Me fail English? That's impossible. When I grow up, I want to be a principal or a caterpillar.
Ralph Wiggum, my man. All right, so you've seen this before. This is the distributive property, right? When you have 3x times 2x, you multiply, that equals 6x squared. 3x times -4, well, that equals -12. You go that way, that's called distributing. Well, if you go the other way, right, the opposite of distribute, that's called factoring, going the other way. I sometimes even call this undistribute. Don't tell your English teachers I said this. Undistribute. I don't think that's proper English, but basically that's what it is. You distribute going this way when you multiply, and if you're not multiplying, we undistribute is the opposite. So I just told you about factoring. Now let's do an example. So this says factor out a greatest common factor. All right, so basically we want to undistribute this problem right here. How do we do that? So I'm going to show you the long way first, then I'll show you a shortcut. So 15x, what are the factors? What are the factors of 15? Well, that's 1 times 3 times 5. 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 5 is 15. Those are all prime numbers. And then x. And then 20y, so that's plus, what are the factors of 20y? So 1 times 2 times 2. 1 times 2 is 2, times 2 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. And I can't break these down anymore because they're all prime numbers. Then look, what do they have in common? All right, so if I'm looking, this one has a 5, that one has a 5, a 1 and a 1. Okay, so they have a 1 and a 5 in common. So I'm going to write that on the outside. 1 times 5, and I'll cross those off. And then everything else I write on the inside. 3 times x plus 2 times 2 times y. And then I just simplify. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times x, 3x. 2 times 2 times y, that is 4y. And then you can check, you can distribute. 5 times 3x, well, that's 15x. 5 times 4y, 20y. So that is the long way of doing this. Short way, well, if I look at this, I look at the variables first. That has an x, that has a y. I know that they won't be distributed out or factored out. So I'm going to write my x and my y first. We've got a plus sign, so I'll put a plus sign. I just need to put some numbers right there. So then I look, I got a 15 and a 20. I'm looking for the greatest common factor. That's the biggest factor. I know I need to start looking at the 15 because that's the smallest number. Why? Because 20, it can't be divided into 15 and you get a nice clean number. Right? So you always start with the smallest one and you write the factors. So the factors of 15, well, that's 1 times 5, or not 1 times 15, and 3 times 5. I have to look at these and see, can any of these go into 20? Can 15 go into 20? No. What about 5? Well, 20 divided by 5, I can do that. So that means I need to take out a 5. So I put a 5 on the outside of the parentheses. And then when you distribute, you multiply. So when you factor, you're going to divide. 15 divided by 5, well, that's 3. 20 divided by 5, that is 4. So that is the shortcut way of doing it. You kind of look at it, do these factors, and then you could put them in their correct places. Let's get a little crazy. We got a y squared in here. So how are we going to do that? All right, I know I'm going to have a parenthesis. This is a negative. I'm going to have a minus sign right there. All right, so let's start with the y, right? These both have a y. This first one is y times y, and the second one is just y. What do they both have in common? Well, they both have a y in it. So that means I'm going to take out a y over here. Now, let's do the numbers. So you always start with the smallest number and write down all the factors. So 12, that is 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. So what's the biggest factor? It's 12. Can 21 be divided by 12? No. What about 21 divided by 6? Nope. 21 divided by 4? Nope. How about 21 divided by 3? Well, 21 divided by 3, you can do that. So I'm going to use this 3. So I put a 3 over here. So now the numbers. We have to divide this 12 by 3. 12 divided by 3, well, that is 4. And we took out a y, right? So how can I make it y squared? Well, y times a y will be y squared. So this is going to be a y, or you could say y squared divided by y is just y. Now we have this 21. All right, 21 divided by 3, that is 7. And do I need a y over here? Well, let's check. Let's try to distribute to find out. 3y times 4y. 3 times 4 is 12. Y times y is y squared. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. This one has a y, so, and this one doesn't, and that will just give you the 21y. So this is your final answer right there. All right, so now we're going to take factoring and we're going to solve equations by it. We're putting two things together. So the first step, we want to look at the smallest variable. All right, that has an x squared, that has an x. That means I want to take an x out of this equation. Now we look at the smallest numbers factors. Is that right? That makes sense. Smallest numbers factor. The smallest numbers factor. The smallest numbers factor. All right. So the smallest number is 10. So I'll put a 10 up here. The factors of that, 1 times 10, 2 times 5. So now we need to see, can those be divided into 15? 15 divided by 10? No. 15 divided by 5? Yes. So that means I'm going to take a 5 out. Okay. So now I need to fill on the inside of this parenthesis. So 10 divided by 5, that's 2. X squared divided by x, and that's just x, minus 15 divided by 5 is 3, and x divided by x, well, that's 1, and 3 times 1 is just 3. So I leave it like that. And that equals 0. So we just factored that, and now we need to solve. So if you remember the zero product rule, we say 5x equals 0, or 2x minus 3 equals 0. So now I solve. So we have divide by 5, x equals 0, or plus 3, 2x equals 3, and then I divide by 2, x equals 3 halves. So that's one answer, that's the other answer. All right, and now we got this one. So you might have a student like Ralph, and he might do this first. He might think, okay, this doesn't equal 0 like the other one, so how can we do that? Well, you don't want to take the highest exponent number and subtract it, the highest degree. You want to take the lowest one, so I'll do 12w minus 12w minus 12w on both sides. That equals 0. And over here you might think, okay, I can just do 6 minus 12. Well, you can't, because w squared and w, those are not like terms. So we just write 6w squared minus 12w. So now, same thing, we have to factor this and then solve. So we look at the smallest variable, w squared and w. The smallest one is w, so that means we're going to take out a w. And then we look at the smallest numbers factors, so that is 6. The factors of 6, we have 1 times 6, 2 times 3. So can 6 be divided, or can 12 be divided by 6? Yes, it can. So we use that. So we have 6w. Now, 6 divided by 6, that's 1. W squared divided by w, that's just w. I can check it if this is right. 6w times w, well, that equals 6w squared. Perfect. Now we do 12 divided by 6. Well, that is 2, and it's being subtracted. W divided by w is just 1. 2 times 1 is just 2. So we have that, and it equals 0. Now we need to solve, so we set both sides equal to 0. Not both sides, both factors. So 6w equals 0, or w minus 2 equals 0. When we solve for w, divide by 6, divide by 6. W equals 0, or plus 2, plus 2. W equals 2. So there are our two answers. Awesome. Now I want you to try. Pause this video, pause, and try it. Try it. That's why I'm a math teacher. Try it. All right, so first one says factor. So we're just factoring. Taking out numbers, we are undistributing. So you look at it, the first rule, look at the smallest variable, right? This has g to the fourth, g to the second, and that's just g. So that means we're taking out a g. All right, then we look at the numbers. Which one is the smallest number? Don't even think of it as a negative, just think of it as a 2. So that's the smallest. The factors are 2 times 1. So can 2 be divided into 14? Yes. Can it be divided into 6? Yes. So that means we're going to take out the 2. All right, now it's time to fill in the inside. Negative 2 divided by 2, well, that's negative 1, so it's going to be negative. And then this was g to the fourth. This is just g to the 1. G to the fourth divided by g is g cubed. 14 divided by 2, that's 7. G squared divided by g, well, that's just g. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. G divided by g is 1, so we just leave it as 3. So there we go, factored. Now we're going to solve. When you solve, it has to equal 0. So the first step, we do minus 15y minus 15y. That becomes 0. These are not like terms, so you write them next to each other. 9y squared minus 15y. I'm going to go over here. We want to look for the smallest variable. Well, it's y. So we're going to take out a y. And now we need to do the rest of it. So the smallest number, well, that's 9. What are the factors of 9? 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. Can 9 be divided into 15? Nope. What about 3? Can 3 go into 15? Yes, it can. So that means we're going to take out the 3. Now we need to fill this part in. So 9 divided by 3, well, that's 3. Y squared divided by y is y, and we have minus. 15 divided by 3, well, that is 5. And y divided by y, that is just 1. So this stays 5. And this all equals 0 because we're solving it. So now what do? We set both factors equal to 0. 3y equals 0. 3y minus 5 equals 0. So it could be either one of these. When we solve this one right here, divide by 3, y equals 0. Or we solve this one, plus 5, 3y equals 5. Divide by 3, y equals 5/3. So there are our two answers. All right, so that's it. You did it. This is an important one to know. Going forward, factoring is very important. So good luck on this video, on the packet. If you don't get it, try to watch it again. And good luck on this mastery check. Dirkus out. And little fun fact, on Instagram, there's something called cash cats, right? So if you like getting cash for the candy store and you like cats, you would love the cash cats. Look at that. Kitties. Money. Bam. Check them out. Cash cats. Dirk is out again.